shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
As Jesus tells stories, as Jesus enters into people's lives, over and over again, he makes it so apparent that the good news is at the forefront for the least and the little and the lost and the dead. And these last 2 weeks, he's done that most certainly through the people who have been lifted up. Last week, the good news is landed in our lap through the despised Samaritan. This week, the good news lands from a woman of all people. Now, in the first century, women had 2 roles. One role was having babies, and the second role was serving others. They had no vote. They were not citizens. They were really non-entities. In the same way, in the 21st century, that it is a social justice statement to say Black Lives Matter, in the first century Palestine, it would have been a social justice statement to say women's lives matter or girls' lives matter, because they really didn't, other than what they were able to produce or serve. Women had a role, and it was to serve. So when Jesus shows up at the home of Martha and Mary, there is something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done right now, and that is the servants. Now, when Jesus arrives, we know he arrives with his disciples. Now, is it Jesus and the 12 disciples, so that 13 have arrived? Or is it Jesus and the 72? Remember, he was sending them out 2 by 2. Is it 73? It doesn't matter whether it's a small herd or a large herd. The herd has arrived at Martha's house. And of course, Martha can't just run out to Costco and grab some large ticket items, nor can she phone in an order to Home Place for pizza or Thai dish for takeout, and she certainly cannot go to the freezer and pull out those lasagnas she just happened to make last week. She's got to build a meal from the ground up. And that is her place in society. It's how she views herself, and it's what she is entirely absorbed in. And the more she scurries about the house, going about the business of hospitality, the more frustrated she becomes. And she's not frustrated at Jesus and the 12 or the 72 that just happened to pop in. She is frustrated at her sister, because her sister is not doing what she is supposed to be doing. Her sister is sitting with the men. Her sister is sitting at Jesus' feet. Her sister is sitting. So she goes to Jesus. Jesus, don't you care? You know, dinner's going to be late and probably going to be burnt, and she's sitting there. Don't you care? And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are distracted by many things. Jesus adds the worried to it too. Now, so often in the church, when we get this story, we want to put these 2 things up against each other, sitting and discipleship versus doing and serving. That's not the point here. Twice in this very short segment, we hear that she is distracted by many, many things. That is the key point here. Service is important, and discipleship is important. It's not either or. The key point here is being present. Martha is distracted and so busy that she's missing that moment of divine. Likewise, how often are we busy and we too miss those divine moments? Not yesterday, but last Saturday, we had an event, a training event here at Immanuel, preparing for our season of listening. And so we had a trainer come in, and we had some folks willing to come in and be trained in listening. Well, one of those people that was going to come in, it was a Saturday morning, and she really thought it would be a great way to start the day with a mocha. So she planned her early morning events about getting that mocha and getting here on time. So she went downtown to a little place called Roth's, and she pulled into the drive-through, and the rain is coming down, and the windshield wipers are splashing the water in on her, and she's waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally they come, and they do take her order eventually, and then she waits and she waits. And all the time she's thinking about, well, I need to get up there, and I need to do this, and time's getting short. Well, maybe I should go across town and get a mocha from another drive-through establishment. And she waits, and finally, water splashing in from the windshield wipers. Finally, that mocha shows up. Now, it's not the mocha she ordered, but she was so irritated at that point it didn't really matter. She got the mocha and drove out the backside of Roth's. Now, the way she tells the story, she'd sat there for 8 minutes fussing about the time and the mocha and how slow the person was behind the window. When she comes to the back of Roth's parking lot and she gets ready to pull into the road, it's then that she notices. Right across from the Roth's entrance and exit there is a little church. And there is a step on the front of that little church. And there was a homeless person trying to sleep there with his blanket pulled up and over him. Now, for the 8 minutes that she had sat awaiting for her mocha to show up, she had not seen him. She had not noticed him. She had been too wrapped up in her busy and her worries and her distractions. So she aims the car towards church thinking, he could probably use that mocha more than I can. Oh, he could probably use breakfast too. And still, the car aimed at the church. And she made it on time with her mocha that she really didn't order, but she made it on time and then spent the next hour at the meeting fussing about what she could have done, should have done, would have done. When we are that busy, we tend to miss the divine moment. Folks, we live in an incredibly busy world. We live in a world that's got so many distractions and so many worries. We live in a world where lorries intentionally crash into crowds of people with the sole purpose to kill them. We live in a world where coups happen in foreign lands. We live in a world where hate groups use social media to encourage hatred and violence wherever other haters are. We live in a world where it's dangerous to be a black man, and right now I think it's even more dangerous to be a policeman. There's media and social media. And we tend to abuse entertainment until our minds and our hearts are numb. We take busyness and we elevate it to almost a godly standard with our agendas and our to-do lists, and we go and we go and we go. Today, Mary and Martha and Jesus are our reminders to rest. Because whenever we rest in the presence of God, it is then that we might find some clarity for what is necessary. We're called to word and to work. We're called to hearing and to doing. We're called to contemplation so that when we get to action, we actually can be authentic and thoughtful about what action we're called to. In the end, as we can visualize Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, in the end, it's a reminder that this business of being Christ followers is the business of relationship. There are all kinds of service groups. We are called to relationship with Jesus Christ. And as we spend time in that relationship, God lifts our limitations into what we see and what we think and what we feel and what we can do. And as those limitations are lifted, it's then that we catch glimpses of the sacred amongst the mundane. Around here, we call those face of God moments. Amen.
Well, this light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And every day, every day, I let my little light shine. Oh, Jesus gave me light, I'm gonna let it shine.